Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Find out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it. That's from Michael Jordan.
It's great philosophy.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? So obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up, which is, I think, where a lot of people, like, that's where they give up. If they run into an obstacle, they're trying to achieve a goal, they do just give up straight away.
Yeah.
Something gets difficult, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
You should use those walls as motivation to carry on.
But how do you when it's difficult? When you want to achieve something, but it's hard, and you hit an obstacle, how? How do you use that as motivation?
Be stubborn.
Stubborn.
Yeah. Just like, I don't let something stop me.
Be relentless in the pursuit of your goal.
Yeah, for sure. Also, think of it like this. If you know that something is hard, and most people quit as soon as it gets hard, just by you continuing through this one block, you've wiped out most of your competition.
That's a good framing.
And then just hit the next wall. And like, you're going to further filter out even more. Till eventually you're going to be one of the top performers, whether you feel like it or not.
I suppose, yeah, by showing that you can do the work and persisting through difficult times, you're going to show that you have the stubbornness, the rigidity, the belief to keep going. And like you say, where most people would give up, you'll keep going. So on average, you'll probably be better than those people that gave up. Well, you definitely will, because they gave up.
Yeah.
But I suppose what people do when they run into an obstacle is they assume there's no other way to get around that obstacle. They give up straight away. They go, I've tried. Rather than looking at other ways to approach it, they just go, that's it. I'm throwing in the towel. It's too much, too hard. Would you say that if someone gave up too early, they probably didn't want the goal?
Yeah, for sure. Like if you want, like I know if I want something, there's nothing that's going to stop me getting it.
And should that be a mindset everyone should adopt? If they have a goal, they should just keep going until they get it.
If they truly want something, yeah. Like you might have to, like the other thing that's key in this is adaptability. So the way you achieve your goal might be in a different way than what you thought the route would be. But that's okay. You've just got to be like COVID coming meant that everyone who was adaptable survived. People who weren't failed. Yeah.
I see the point you're making. So it is a case of being adaptable, being brave to try something new and understand you might fail. But then the point we're making is if you try and fail and give up, you probably didn't want it enough or understood the work it would take to get there. If you try and fail, but try again, you likely wanted enough to keep going. But I suppose the hard part to understand for a lot of people is if they try and fail and give up, is relinquishing the guilt that they felt when they didn't achieve it, because clearly if they wanted it, they would keep going.
Yeah.
Because actions speak louder than words. You can say as much as you want, I want to be in better shape. I want to build a business. Your actions will show that to other people, not the words you speak.
Yeah.
So obstacles don't have to stop you. Do you think people let obstacles stop them? Like, rather than it actually being something they can't do, they just go, it's too hard.
Unfortunately, I do. I think people generally don't work hard.
Why do you think people don't work hard? And bearing in mind, we've got people you don't want to offend on this one.
No.
No.
Why do I care? People confuse working long hours with working hard. Working hard is hitting those stumbling blocks, stumbling, not letting it block you, and carrying on and doing the next hard thing. It's like Alex Hormozy's got a thing to prioritize the hard things first, and then once you've done one hard thing, working hard is finishing that hard thing, immediately starting the next hard thing.
So people don't understand what hard work actually looks like.
No, because it sucks. Like, there's nothing nice about hard work. And hard work can seem really simple. For example, it is really hard work to message like 100 people on outreach per day for 100 days. Like, you'll do it day one and you'll be like, that was long. Like, that was so tedious. That was so boring. That's the hard bit. Because the next day you're doing exactly the same thing with no reward. The next day you're doing exactly the same thing with no reward. It can be a simple thing to do, but actually very difficult to achieve. Sticking to a diet for 100 days. Like, oh, yeah, but I could just have a snack now, and like I'm still sticking to the diet. I'm just adding a chocolate bar. It's like, no, that's not the diet.
I suppose the obstacles people have is, work affairs. They've got to go into the office, or they've had a really stressful day and food is their way to cope. So obstacles are always going to be there. And if you're looking for them, you'll likely find them quicker.
Yeah.
But if you're more aligned with how you're going to do it and you almost close yourself off to obstacles, you'll likely not find them. If you are expecting something, you'll likely attract it. We just manifest what we put. Our words are so powerful. So if I say, oh, today's going to be really hard, likely your day's going to suck.
Yeah. Do you want a fun little real life
I always want fun.
example of this? Okay. Look around the room. I want you to count how many grey things there are in the room.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, how many blue things did you see?
Oh, I was only focusing on the grey.
Right. Yeah, but the blue things are there, like the Taylor sign. There's a cardboard box there. We've got little blue light of that LED screen there. Some blue on the screen over there. Some blue down there. Blue on the jumper.
Yeah, so if you're looking for obstacles, you'll find them.
it. That's it.
But if you're not looking for obstacles, you won't find them.
Like
if you're looking for opportunities.
If you're looking for opportunity, it's the same thing. It's whatever you're looking for, you find.
Yep.
Like if you go to somebody and say, oh, it's impossible to run a business in the state of the current economy. Okay, first of all, what do you know about the current economy? Like realistically, most people have no idea because even the top economists don't know. Second of all, people are going to say, yeah, because they're just going to want to agree. They don't want to have a confrontation with you. Nobody's going to elevate a conversation to an argument just based off an agreement or disagreement that the economy's bad right now. Who actually cares? But if you go to them and say, oh, I've been spotting loads of like really good opportunities in the AI space at the moment and how you can help businesses expand by automating certain systems. But there's a cool way to do it where you can still keep the workforce. So they don't have to get rid of any jobs, but they increase revenue. The other person will say, oh, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I was watching a thing the other day and it said about this certain area. And suddenly there's an opportunity for you to either make a sale or expand or learn something new, or just because you approached it with a different mindset.
Opportunities breed opportunities, and people love to feed into positivity as well. People will likely match your energy, and if you come with someone with problems or obstacles you're facing, whether it's business or personal, you'll likely be met with obstacles from other people. Oh yeah, that sounds really difficult. Oh yeah, I could see how that's really hard. Whereas if you're coming with positives, optimistic outlooks, people will likely match that with you. Because people like to mirror. It's how we stayed safe as an environment is sort of behavioural mirroring.
Yep.
Yeah, obstacles stop people because people look for obstacles. And then it also implies that people don't look for alternatives on how to solve a problem. They just accept that the way they tried is wrong. People are scared of hard work and sometimes don't understand completely what hard work looks like. Sometimes hard work is showing up, doing the thing again and again without any expectation of a reward. Yeah, it's tough. People need to have a more get up and go or a more opportunistic mindset. Now, how would you speak to someone that needs to embody this mindset of just try, work hard, take risks, be brave, be courageous?
I'd ask them what they're afraid of. I was like, if you fail, what's the worst thing that happens to you? Like, the reality is you can probably try again tomorrow. And then the day after that. And then the day after that. And, like, if it's not going to actually kill you, like, what is the negative? There probably isn't one. It's just you don't want to do hard work.
Or rather, there's not a negative that outweighs the possible positive. Is that a maybe better reframing?
Yeah, I mean, it purely comes down to how much you want the goal. Like, if you want to be a millionaire, there is no excuse. Like, you just go and make £1 million. And it might take 10 years, might take 50 years, might take 5 minutes. Depends on who you are, depends on what your skill set is, depends on who you happen to stumble into that can give you the opportunity. But not trying will guarantee you don't get there.
I can make £1 million.
Everyone can.
If I had 999,999 pence. Let's take a pound. Go to a pound. Ask my dad for a pound. I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask everyone I know and meet in life for a pound. And then
yeah,
there you go.
That'd be a good YouTube video idea. trying to make £1,000 in a day by asking everyone to just give me £1.
Well, then homeless people would be
Learning. Except they wouldn't, because they won't be watching YouTube.
Well, yeah, it's a cool mindset. Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, turn around. Don't turn around and give up. Find a way to climb it, go through it, or work around it. It's just an opportunistic mindset. Be brave, be courageous, take risks, and don't stop when you run into an inconvenience or a reason that suggests you could stop.
Yeah.
Not should, but could.
Don't let other people tell you what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't have people dictate what you're doing either.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Follow your own path. Like, obviously, if somebody has done it previously and they're telling you that the way you're approaching it is wrong, they might be worth listening to. But if it's just somebody that's trying to drag you down because you're trying to better your life and they're not, like, they have no stake in that conversation.
Sweet. Do you want to do a Huel and a watch this?
Is that pointing at me?
Should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will turn it ever so slightly because you're just off the middle, but now you're perfectly in the middle, but it was still pointing at you.
Cool.
Huel!
Try and come up with a new intro then. But before we get into that, just quickly, I want to mention Huel. Huel is the person who provided this t-shirt, but also is a drink which is nutritionally complete, which means that you don't have to eat meals. And I don't like eating meals. It's very inconvenient and it's a waste of time. So if I just have everything I need in a drink, then it saves me loads of time. What's been your experience with Huel?
Huel's been a great way to get extra protein into my diet when I'm in a pinch.
Yes, they now have the new black edition with additional protein. You like the chocolate flavour, as well as the cookies and cream protein edition.
And you like miscellaneous berry.
I do like berry. Berry is very good. And I also like the salted caramel one as well, which I also think is Stephen Bartlett's favourite, and he's the owner, so he should know. There's a link down in the description. This is so long for an ad. There's a link down in the description for money off your Huel order. I've also bundled together like loads of stuff. So you can just easily get what we like. Back to the episode.
Sweet, we'll do another one because I got one here, and then you've got two.
I need to sit out the way, otherwise you get my skull.
That's what we like. And just to interrupt this conversation for a brief second, we want to just let you know of our sponsor, which is Huel. If you check the link below, you can get money off your next order. We use Huel when we need to get extra protein into our diet, when we need to get some extra nutrition in there as well. Recommend you check it out. Money off down below. Thank you for listening. Back to the episode.
Smashed it.
Thanks. Do you want to do a... This has been linked for you, and I'll do the same.
Well done for making it to the end of the episode. That was hard work, wasn't it? I hope you learnt something. Anyway, there's a video up there that's perfectly tailored for you by the algorithm, so we think you should probably click it. If YouTube does, why wouldn't you? It's just... Go on.
Nice. I like the cheekiness.
You've got to be cheeky. Cheeks.
Them cheeks, though. Cool. I'll do one. Thank you for making it to the end of the episode. We appreciate you watching and supporting. If you've made it this far, there is now a video just over here which the YouTube algorithm has designed for you. So I recommend giving it a listen. Hopefully you enjoy it. Thanks again.
Great.
Sick.
I watched the podcast clip. I don't know the name of the podcast, but a guy said, I don't know how anybody who is attracted to females can see a vagina and not want to lick it.
The fuck?
Cracking up for like 3 minutes. And that was like the co-host on the podcast was like just wet himself for the whole like rest of it. It was brilliant.
Sick.
What a moment.
What a moment indeed.
Isn't it interesting how different podcasts have different tones?
Speaking of our tone, here's the first question for you. If you had a crisis at 3 a.m., Who are the 3 people you could call without feeling like a burden? And when was the last time you actually invested in those special connections? Right. So our first talking point is the Hill gradient effect. So we spend thousands of dollars on gym memberships, organic supplements, but we ignore the one factor that the longest study in human history says determines our health and success more than anything else: the quality of our relationships. We are in a loneliness epidemic, and loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a biological risk factor. So we are going to go beyond the networking and the small talk and the BS people use to define conversations. We're discussing social fitness, and we're going to look at why your brain perceives being alone as a physical threat and how to transform from a digital follower into a real world tribe member. Again, we're going to talk about the Hill gradient and effect, and it's a perfect follow-on from our growth tribe discussion, which you would have caught on our last episode. So, Will, question for you in the audience. If you had a crisis at 3 a.m., who are the 3 people you could call without feeling like a burden? And when was the last time you actually invested into those specific connections?
3 people. My goodness, do I know 3 people?
This is it. You've got to really look inwards that if it was 3 a.m. and you were in an emergency, who could you call?
Yeah, I'd probably call my dad. It's quite a good one. He usually answers. Maybe if it was like in a problem that was like location specific, I'd probably call you.
I wouldn't answer.
I know, but I'd try.
Try again, and I won't answer. I'll be asleep at 3 a.m.
That's a good point. Or just waking up. No, but if it was local, I'd need somebody near. I'd wonder where my girlfriend is in all of this. Like, probably wouldn't need to call her. I'd just be like, "Hey, babe, there's a fire." Yeah, who else? I don't really know. They're probably the main 2.
So when was the last time you actually invested into those specific connections?
Dad over Christmas, sort of, and then every day I speak to him on the phone, which is quite good. Give him a rundown of everything that's happening, ask him what's happening in his life, how his new year was. So just strengthening that relationship. With you, don't really know, just hang out a lot.
You didn't buy me a Christmas present, you dick.
I got you a card.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
But that was from last year.
Oh. You just broken the 4th wall for me.
Have I?
Yeah.
I swear I told you that when I gave it to you.
Nah.
No.
I would have remembered. But yeah, we're talking about the Hill gradient effect. So studies show that when you stand at the bottom of a steep hill with a friend, the hill actually looks less steep to your brain than if you were alone. How wild is that? So this question I posed to you, if it's 3 a.m. and it's a crisis and you need someone, who can you call? And how often do you invest into that relationship is relevant, because you need to invest into these specific connections and relationships to have a foundational trust, support, and a level of vulnerability there as well. Because then when you are standing at the bottom of a hill, either physically or metaphorically, you feel like you can approach that with that person. So you mentioned your dad calls you every day. Would you say frequency is important in building connections?
Yeah, for sure. Frequency, consistency, and I suppose just sort of being there out of service rather than being there for you.
What do you mean by out of service rather than there for you? Because I think that's a perfectly valid point, but I think people need to understand what that means to be of service.
It means you don't necessarily have an agenda. It's like you're there to listen to the other person, see what's happening in their life. It's just you're on like a fact-finding, information source gathering sort of mission, rather than just trying to dump all your stuff on somebody else.
So being there for someone with no expectation of reward, almost. So volunteer your time towards people that are going through a difficult time, help people move, offer your help to friends, family, neighbors with like work out in the front garden, cleaning, shopping, being of service if someone has fallen unwell and they live by themselves, they need someone to cook for them. So small things, those small gestures. It can be big or small, ironically. Just building connections with people. So I suppose it's being present, listening, frequency, consistency. I think there's an element of you've got to show a genuine interest as well in that person. You know, I would hope with this person you feel connected, you are showing a genuine interest, but you know, we're not going to bond if you don't show any interest in the things I'm interested in and vice versa. You know, I think half the things you talk about are BS, but I pretend to listen and you love it.
Yeah.
You lap it up.
I do. I enjoy fake interest.
When you talk about YouTube, I pretend to listen.
I know. No, you're pretty good at listening.
I should hope so. But yeah, it's also expressing positivity, I think, is really important with building connections, because I think that's often missed as well. So like saying thank you, offering compliments, showing appreciation, just supporting people. You know, you're showing people how you want to be loved as well. You know, like if I do something well and you celebrate me or say you're proud of me or whatever it might be, it's going to make me feel good, and vice versa. You know, if you do something good that you're proud of, you want the person to meet you where you're at rather than going, oh, cool, I had dinner yesterday. You know, it's going to completely demoralize you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Might do. But yeah, so building connections is super important. So the hill gradient effect, as we mentioned. So science has proven that your brain actually distorts physical and physicality reality based on who is standing next to you. If you're facing a steep hill alone, your brain perceives it as more daunting than if your friend is by your side. So let's talk about why doing it alone isn't just lonely, it's scientifically harder. Have you ever had a goal that felt impossible one day, but then you talked it through with your partner and suddenly it felt like a walk in the park, or that burden felt a little less hard?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Have you?
No, I handle all my problems like an adult.
Nice. Like a man.
Yeah.
I just man up and deal with them.
Yes.
No, so I have. Yeah, quite often get hyper stressed about YouTube and everything I need to be doing on there. And then I'll speak to my dad at the end of the day. I know you said partner, but you know, I speak to my dad at the end of the day, and he's like, "Oh, well, if you just do this and this, these are the highest leveraged activities you could be doing," and therefore, like, reduces my stress straight away because I'm like, "Oh yeah, if I do that, then the other ones don't even become relevant."
So what does the benefit have of someone showing support in that way, of turning up to practically help you solve a problem, whether it's to help or to listen?
It's just reassuring. Like, it makes the problem seem smaller by understanding it on a deeper level. And when you have to explain something to somebody, you connect different thoughts and ideas in your head than you would just on your own. Like, when you're on your own, everything is all consuming. Whereas when you share with somebody else, you instantly have their perspectives to take into account, and you're like, oh, well, they wouldn't be stressed about this.
So it's almost like the load is shared, even if the work isn't. So if it's a business problem, like you said with your dad, or whether it's like something you want to talk through in your personal life or towards a career, the load may not be shared because that person can't physically do the work for you, but the work isn't shared, but the load is going to feel shared because you're opting it to get outside sort of input as well, which is super important. So the struggle isn't personal, it's contextual. You know, you want to bring people in. So do you think people try and live with this idea of, I know we've spoken about my main character energy, side character energy, but what I want to coin here at this point is main character syndrome in regards to carrying every burden by themselves. Do you think that can be beneficial or would hurt someone in the long run?
I think it definitely hurts in the long run.
Why do you think that?
Because when you are struggling, for example, that is the number one time to reach out to other people and deepen your connections with other people. People like to be needed. People like to be of service. So you're giving the people in your life the opportunity to deepen that connection. If you're just always either not talking to people or dealing with all your problems on your own, you're never going to let anyone get to know you on a deeper level because they can't. It's oh, I did this and then I found the solution and everything was fine. It's like, oh yeah, thrilling, thanks. Like, no, like you need to let other people in on your problems as well as your successes so you can enjoy that emotion together or hate that emotion together, you know? But at least like you can either sit in the mud with somebody or you can go and party on the yacht together, you know? It's
You can live in isolation or you can coexist with people. You know, just because you shared something you want to work on or you shared something you're struggling with doesn't mean that it instantly diminishes the reward that comes from it. If anything, it's probably going to allow you to share that reward with someone else. Not that they're stealing your achievement, but that you get to celebrate it with someone that actually can completely empathize with the work you've put in to achieve that again, whether that's business or social. You know, because there's going to be that immediate psychological relief that comes from venting to someone that legitimately understands and legitimately wants to help. Like you said, is of service to you with no expectation of reward. And then, like you said, you could legitimately be partying on a yacht with them to celebrate, or you could be, hooray, you pop a bit of like champagne in your room to celebrate, and that's the difference. It's a duality you could be living with. So I suppose the first place to look at is tasks are going to feel harder in isolation. So the same task, fear, or decision can feel overwhelming alone, but manageable with support. Why do we think we need to feel the need to isolate ourselves when it comes to issues?
because you don't want to be a burden on other people.
Do we think that coming to people with problems, either business, social, relationship, however you want to look at the problem, is being a burden to people?
I don't think it is. As I say, I think it helps deepen the relationship. But I think the automatic assumption, if you've got a problem, is you feel powerless. So it takes quite a lot of ownership to go, oh, I just don't know what to do here. And then to reach out to the person and lay it all out for them. You don't want any sort of negative feedback. Like, oh, don't be so silly. You can just crack on with this. Or
So it's almost a fear of vulnerability, as well as paired with the thought of being a burden. Do you think those that maybe feel like they've got a stronger sense of self or a more understanding of who they are probably feel less fear in sharing?
yeah, I think so. I think the more confident you are in who you are across all areas of life, you're going to do better.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think we also live in a really interesting mindset, and I'd love to know your opinions on this. But we live in a world at the moment that likes to exaggerate difficulty. So we've normalized facing steep hills alone and privately. You know, this hustle culture, this David Goggins mindset of wake up, do the hard thing, do it alone, go where no one else will go. All, on the surface, great ideas, but then in practicality can leave someone leaving extremely lonely and isolated, when in reality they can help bring people along with them, support them, live in this nice relationship together where they can coexist, support each other through issues, celebrate the wins, mourn the losses, feel the lows together, but ultimately thrive together. But modern life likes to create this idea of solo hustle.
I think whenever you want to do something like build a business or better your life, you are instantly stepping out of what you would normally be doing with your group of people. So it is inherently isolating because you're trying to do something that nobody around you has done. And then that makes you feel like you can't go to others around you for help because they have no idea what you're talking about. But the reality is you're not really going to them to find the answer. You're going to them for the emotional support to find the answer.
Yeah, it's because we like to glorify overwork, don't we? Like we treat exhaustion as almost like a badge of honor sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're going to resonate with this, like the sleep is for the weak,
Yeah.
rise and grind mentality, you know? Often leads to overworking and burning out, working over hours where you're working at unsociable hours, neglecting relationships because of this solo hustle culture that's been ingrained in us. You know, sometimes we feel like we can thrive in isolation. You know, like we said in our previous episode, you need to find your tribe, your growth tribe, to be able to grow together with, and really having a friend, having a relationship that you can feel like when you're standing at the bottom of the hill or in the mud, they've got your back, is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But we live in this myth of independence as strength. I think men, maybe not especially, but I know I'm speaking from my experience. Men have been told that men need to be strong and stoic and by themselves, and sometimes that's just not true.
Yeah, it's very. The problem is we get so many different sources of information. So one person will say men need to be really strong and don't show any emotion and just face all your problems by yourself. And at the same time, there's the huge culture of men should be more open with their emotions and it's okay for men to cry and all of this stuff. And so you're hearing both messages at the same time, and it's like, okay, well, which one's like, how should I live my life? Like, should I take both of these into account? How do I implement that into it becomes very confusing. So I think people attach themselves to one idea or the other. One interesting bit of information, which I guess is sort of relevant here, is in relationships where the woman is the higher earner, those marriages break down with almost 100% hit rate on that.
Really?
It's crazy. High achieving women with less achieving husbands, the relationship dynamic doesn't work as much.
Interesting. I'd like to explore that maybe at a different venture, because I don't know if I agree with that, but I can see the arguments that are being made, because men do feel like they need a drive. They need to be able to feel like they are of service to others. I think those are really great masculine traits to embody, but that can come at the expense of people feeling like they're losing their ego. And again, I think then some men can turn nasty because they're like, well, I don't know where I need to be. Women should be in the house because that's where it makes sense for me. And that's where I think it can be a bit of an issue. So I think it depends on the relationship, but I'd be curious to explore that further.
I think it's a lot of men derive their utility in life from being the provider, and now that's slipping away. It's like, where is men's sense of purpose? Because they can't be the mum to their kids because they don't have boobs for a start, and they can't be the main earner anymore because that's been not taken away, but because women are now earning and have the opportunity to succeed, the man is against not only all the men that are better than him, but all the women in the world as well. And women are inherently better than men, just generally. And then he's also got to be an emotional support thing while struggling with his own sense of utility, while trying to, provide.
I personally don't see any of that. I see it as an issue, but I see it as an opportunity for men to step into this new space. I see it as an opportunity. And I think it is questioning a lot of the ideals and the values we've assigned to men throughout the years. But again, I don't think that's an issue, because it allows men to grow into this new portion of life. And again, I think men are struggling with the idea of this hill gradient effect, which is having support networks, having a friend to stand at the bottom of the hill with to make it seem less daunting. You've got two choices. You've got the choice to isolate yourself, or you've got the choice to reach out and be vulnerable and allow someone to legitimately help your life in a positive way. You said at the beginning of this episode, you have people you could call, if you really needed. So do I. And if I really needed, I've got quite a few, I think maybe like 4 or 5 that I could call, and I know they'd be there for me however I needed them to be, which is awesome. And I pity those that don't, and I feel sad for them, because I'd love for them to be able to find, whether that's through choice or not. If it's through choice, then I pity them. If it's through the externals or loneliness, whatever it might be, then okay, how can we help these people? But yeah, having someone to stand with you in the mud, to support you, to be vulnerable with you, is just so invaluable. And as studies have shown, it actually makes problems seem easier. So if our brain literally changes perception of difficulty based on the company, Are the hills in your life too steep, or are you just surrounded by the wrong people?
That's an interesting insight.
Yeah, right? So how would one even approach having that discussion? Are the hills too steep? How do we define too steep? Or are you just surrounded by the wrong people?
I think hills generally are problems, right?
Yeah, okay. We can define hills as problems.
So problems can be fixed with your skill set and supported by the people around you. So fundamentally, if a hill is too steep, you either don't have the skill set to fix the problem, and you might not have the right person standing by your side to make that hill seem smaller.
So it's both simultaneously.
I think, yeah. There's very rarely in life is there one clean-cut answer to a question.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to work in definitives, and we are constantly working in the grey here on this episode. Albeit every episode on the podcast, we are constantly working in the grey because everyone experiences life differently. So everyone's navigating life slightly in the grey, which is cool because it allows people to thrive.
Yeah.
That uncertainty breeds creativity and inspiration, which is awesome. So what would you say to those that feel like they answered that question, that they're surrounded by the wrong people?
Find new people.
Find your tribe. Yeah. Like we said in the last episode, literally the last episode of Growth Tribes, start with hobbies. Again, adults have forgot that they can have hobbies. How wild is that? You can have something that you do just for the pure enjoyment of it. Doesn't matter if you're good at it, bad at it, you just enjoy it because you enjoy it. No other reason other than you like it. And if you start there, you'll be the best version of yourself when you're doing it. You'll be the most open-minded version of yourself you can be. And you'll likely meet other people. We laughed in the last one, which is like, go to a tennis club, you'll probably find people that like playing tennis.
Yeah, literally.
So yeah, a good place to start for those that feel like they're surrounded by the wrong people is, as simple as it sounds, find new people. But how do you do that? You put yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to lose your current friends in the sake of finding your new ones.
Yeah. Like change location is a great way. Like it's way more disruptive to your life. But if you're in a period of transition, say you've just lost your job and you feel like your current friendship group isn't supporting you and they don't really care about you now you've lost your job, it's like you're in the perfect scenario to just leave your area and find a new town, set up a new life. And that town will be whatever you make it. If you go into it with the mindset of, oh, I'm not going to know anyone there, like, oh, I don't have a job, like, I'm not going to get a job there, it's going to be very difficult. Like, that's what you'll find. If you go there thinking, oh, this is where I'm going to find all my friends and it's where I'm going to find, like, the best job in my life, it's going to have way more freedom, the flexibility will be insane. Like, you will find that because you're looking for it.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, the mind will automatically look for what you tell it. It's so powerful. We said it before of how powerful words are. If you are actively looking for problems, you'll find problems.
Yeah.
But if you're actively looking for solutions and opportunities, you'll find solutions and opportunities. You've done it before with me where it's like, look around the room and pick out anything that's grey. I look around and I picked out a couple, and then you go, right, tell me what was blue. And I'm like, oh, I didn't look for blue. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're looking for issues, you'll find issues. If you're looking for reasons for your friends to not be right, you'll likely create that environment where your friends are not right for you. Whereas if you are looking in new environments and new places and wanting to broaden your horizons and go into conversations with the opportunity, you might connect with someone, you might learn something new, you'll likely embrace that conversation. Think how many conversations you have on average, and then think how many more you could have if you went to places that you never went before. You went with the idea of making new friends, that people are going to be receptive to the conversations you're going to start. And do you feel like you've got a supportive group of friends that will really lift you out the dirt or help you approach challenges that seem daunting?
I do. I like my friendship group very much. They don't mind the fact that I'm okay to operate outside of the norm, which is awesome for me because it means I can be weird. It means I can be myself. It means I can do things that most people would think are terrible ideas. They will still support me in doing if I believe that they're right. It's also a friendship group that's not afraid to speak up for their own opinions and come up with their own ideas, even if they know that you're going to disagree. I love the fact that we can actually, in an amicable way, test each other to where we can more, like, have more concrete ideas. Like, we know what we believe better at the end of a conversation than we do at the beginning. I like that. And I think that's why this podcast is so good as well, and why it came about so naturally, is because you asked a question when we were just hanging out with a group of friends, like, what does it mean to be a man in the modern age? It's like, I don't think most friendship groups are asking those questions and having a serious discussion and a debate about it through Brighton. Like,
yeah, it was a debate as well. That's what was really cool about it. And 4 of us got involved. One was too high to get involved. But 4 of us, really.
The rest of us weren't high, by the way.
No.
Just want to make that clear.
We're that's
I
not us.
behave, mum. Not that you watch.
But yeah, like, it's true. It is about showing up authentically. So I heard a few different things, which is a friendship group, a good friendship group will accept you as you are, which is almost a two-parter, because you've got to accept yourself as you are. You've got to embrace your authenticity to be able to show up authentically for that group, who can then embrace. And if you feel like you are showing up authentically, they can then help you when you need help, and you can be completely vulnerable with them.
Yeah.
You know, I hate this joke that guys have, which is like, guys don't know what guys do for work, or they don't know their girlfriend's name, all these kind of things. I think that's awful. I couldn't imagine that, like being with a group of guys that we just don't know anything about each other. We just hang out because they're cool people to hang out with.
Yeah. That Kevin Hart sketch is so funny. The girlfriend goes out like, okay, bye. Like, don't you want to know where I'm going? No, I guess you're going somewhere. Like, do you want to know who I'm going with? I guess you're friends, right? Like, yeah. Don't you want to know what I'm going to eat? Well, probably some food. Switch the other way around. The guy leaves, and she's like, "Oh, where are you going?" Well, I don't know yet. Are you going to eat? I hope so. I'm hungry. Who are you going with? Whoever shows up.
Yeah, we just put it in the group chat, see who turns up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. And also you touched on like friendship autonomy. You don't have to be carbon copies of each other. It's okay to disagree with your friends. Providing you respect each other, you listen, and you're open to different ideas, then you can thrive creatively because you're going to have differing ideas. You don't want to be surrounded by carbon copies, because then you're just going to be reaffirming what you thought already. Whereas I know if I bring something to any number of my friends, they will share a different opinion that I probably have not thought about. And it allows me to be who I am, them to be who they are, and for us to grow simultaneously, which in turn builds a deeper connection within the friendship.
Another thing I like a lot about our friendship group is we all have our different biases or areas that we come from. So for example, I will always approach something from like the logical business perspective. You will always approach something from the emotional, like how does this impact society as a whole often. We've got another friend called Josh who will approach it from the, how would you say he approaches it?
I think he approaches it as what's the cost to work ratio.
Yeah. And then we've got another friend, Iri, who is quite balanced, I would say, in his opinions, but firm once he thinks something is right. He will know why that is right and put it forward, and he's always right.
He's disciplined, very disciplined, very hardworking, and he knows his core values and he can align with them.
Yeah.
Which is great. But yeah, it's true. So it's having that autonomy within a friendship. So when you are standing at the bottom of that hill, you've got complete vulnerability, because the friends that you surround yourself with are who they are. And hopefully that means that you've got that space to grow together. Hopefully. So I suppose that means you've got to move from stop trying to toughen up and start teaming up.
I love that. That's great. That's going on the thumbnail. Stop toughening up.
Stop trying to toughen up and start teaming up. Yeah, because you want to almost do like a hill partner audit. So identify your 3 biggest current challenges and assign a partner to each, not to do the work for you, but just to stand at the bottom of the hill of where you plan to climb. So if it's a business or something professional, who are you going to call on? Who's that person that you can use for support? If it's a relationship problem, who's that person you're going to call for support? If it's a personal development, who's that person you're going to call for support? And you might have a few, which is really cool. But it's a case of who do you have in those moments? So don't be afraid to ask people to step up as well. Give them the opportunity, because you don't know who might step up in that moment.
Your weakness, as we said, your weakness is the catalyst for deepening your relationships. And your strength is your opportunity to rise others up with you. It's, you can help people out when you're strong or in a good position, and others can help you when you're feeling weak. It's a balance.
Yeah, I like that. It is a give and take, and it's a respect thing. So you got to stop viewing your life as a series of solo battles, and you can realize that your capacity isn't fixed either. It's a variable that's increased with the quality of your relationships and the quality of the people you surround yourself with. So I suppose questions for people to sit with is, what hills in their life feel impossibly steep? And who am I without facing them? Or who would I be if I faced them? And where have I mistaken loneliness for self-resilience? I think that's a big one. How many people have told themselves they are independent at the sake of their happiness and their connection? I know that's definitely something I struggled with, is I told myself I was unbelievably independent. And in reality, I just needed support.
It's such a crazy thing, because out of everyone in our immediate friendship group that I know, you know the most people and are the most social. But still, there's that internal pull to go fully independent.
I think it's always something that you can never quite expect everyone to fit the mold you might have for them. You've got to be willing for people to change and question your perception of them, and never to fully judge them or put people in a box, because people are inherently confusing and always going to confuse you and change. But you're right, I know a lot of people, but there's times where I feel completely lonely. It's wild. But yeah, so we know that loneliness is as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Studies have shown it's extremely damaging for you, loneliness, and we're in an epidemic of it.
But there's no warning package.
No. And my question for you is, why do we prioritize a 5 a.m. workout but struggle to prioritize a 5 p.m. coffee with a friend?
It's a great question.
Post?
That could be the dongle. I do apologise, but if it is the dongle...
Game changer. Pull the door completely and then step out. Yeah, because then you're not touching anything.
Bloody hell, it's not. I think that's my Christmas present. I'm so sorry.
Don't be. It's given us fresh bits of injection. Like, the energy actually got better after that first break. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is going to be a bugger to edit.
Yeah, I would think so. So we know that loneliness is as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So we know we're in a loneliness epidemic, and we know there's no warning label with loneliness. But why do we prioritize a 5 a.m. workout but struggle to prioritize a 5 p.m. coffee with a friend?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's really an answer. Like, it's because it's obvious, right? You should prioritize having time with the people in your life that you value most and strengthening relationships. We just don't put any weight on it. And I mean, there's no logical reason for why, other than we might be too tired, or we might, we just put blocks in the way so that we don't do it.
I wonder if it's because we've been told we need to put our own personal pursuits above social interactions.
Yeah.
We've been told that the best way to get ahead in life is to prioritize what's important for you, and going to the gym, building a business, sacrificing social for the sake of something internal is always worth it. When in reality, sometimes you just need to prioritize that coffee with a friend, both for you and for them. But it's true. Like, I think we're definitely told to prioritize ourselves above other people, when in reality, I think it needs to be flipped. You need to prioritize these social interactions. And you never quite know what someone's going through either. I think it's Simon Sinek that suggests, with some of his friends, he says a 7-minute rule. So 7 minutes is all it takes to change someone's entire outlook on their day. And if someone asks him, do you have 7 minutes? He'll give it. He'll always give it. Because he had it once where someone asked, if he's free and wanted to have a phone call, go for a walk or something. He was like, oh no, I'm just too busy. And then she said how much she was struggling. He was like, I wish you said something. And she was like, I did. And he was like, I wish I knew. I wish I knew that was what the call for help was. But it's difficult. So I suppose what this comes down to is relational intelligence. So we talk about IQ, so like your actual intelligence. Then we got EQ, so emotional intelligence. And then we got RQ, so relational intelligence. Just another Q to add on. Another letter of the alphabet. So reading the room matters more than reading the self. So emotional intelligence focuses on me. Relational intelligence asks what's happening between us and what's needed here. It's the ability to sense the unspoken, adjust without ego, and act in service of the whole. Do you feel like you have a good relational intelligence?
I wish it was better. I'm not very good at picking up on those cues when somebody really needs help, or if they're just want to hang out for hanging out's sake. I also don't want to cloud my judgment on life with always thinking whenever somebody messages that it's a really serious problem, because I like to think that maybe it's just I enjoy the ignorance, but I don't want to just assume that if somebody asks for help that it's a really deep, serious problem. Like, I like the idea that somebody could hang out with me just to hang out, I don't want to go into it with that. So finding that balance is really difficult. I think generally with me, you've got to be pretty upfront to say, like, we need to have a conversation because I'm really struggling and this is what I think the reason is, but I'd like to discuss it further. Like, that for me is extremely helpful. But when you're in the throes...
Your ADHD brain's like, yes, I can make sense of this.
Yeah. But when you're in the throes of really struggling with something, you're not going to be that open 9 times out of 10. You're going to want to guard it until you feel like you're in the safe environment to where you can share. So it's definitely a me problem. It's not a problem with people around you.
But I suppose it's also... there is a give and take. People need to try and understand who they're interacting with. So I understand the point you're making. But yeah, I think we can look at emotional intelligence. It's almost like, relational intelligence, as the new gold standards, the ability to see the invisible threads that are connecting people in the room. A lot of people in the hippie community like to call it like being an empath. So you can pick up on the social cues and the subtleties that are flying around the room. I like to call that as people that have had past traumas and have become so heightened to outside stimulus that because it's kept them safe. I've definitely fallen into that category. So I grew up in a household that was a little unstable and quick to anger. So I had to be very aware of these subtle cues that someone was giving out or the way that two people were communicating, because then I knew, oh shit, this is going to erupt. I need to get out. So I'm curious where relational intelligence fits into like trauma as well. But I suppose we need to get into it. So have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt tension, even though everyone was smiling? You have?
Yeah, you can see it in the eyes.
So that's your relational intelligence firing. So the question then is, are you using that data or are you ignoring it? Because sometimes it's easier to ignore it and be like, oh God, I don't want to solve this. I don't want to pick up on this.
Yeah, I usually try and spin it around by like distracting the situation or just saying something random. Like usually that's not.
Has everyone had their milk today?
Yeah, just something really weird. Like, oh, don't you hate it when you hit your head in like an Indian coffee shop?
An Indian coffee shop?
Yeah. One jumped to mind straight away.
We have an Indian coffee shop?
Not here.
Oh, okay.
In Chichester.
Ah, very fancy.
It's not even a coffee shop. It's just a restaurant. But I went in there a lot. It's the best one in the UK, hands down. I'll fight anyone. That's a hill I'll die on.
Okay.
But yeah, just that's how I've approached it. But I don't know how much of that is my lack of ability to deal with those situations. I feel like the safest way out is with humour. And that becomes almost like a defense mechanism, I think, in terms of I don't want to have lots of confrontation around me. Therefore, I'm going to try and drag everyone out of the...
So the ironic part of what you're suggesting there is actually EQ can fail socially, whereas relational intelligence requires humility. So you've got to notice that every moment isn't about you and it's about the society. So being really self-aware can still allow you to be somewhat disruptive. You know, being aware of these environments, being aware of yourself can somewhat still be disruptive. So it's almost like a superpower, but you've got to wield it carefully because you've got to understand, well, if there's subtleties going on that I may or may not understand, I've got to walk this line quite carefully so I don't upset anyone. But it's really difficult because, again, sometimes it's tangible. Sometimes you're like, well, I know this person's broken up with this person, so they're probably clearly at odds. And I know that person's always been flirting with them, so it might be easy. But sometimes it's reading energy and not just words, which I know is unbelievably hippie of me to say, but it's true. You've got to read energy. So a way to tangibly explain that is tone, posture, silences, pace of words. So it's all the subtleties, all the non-verbal cues, all the breaks in communication, all the pauses in words, who people look at. We communicate far more than just what we say. You know, if you've ever heard of the, someone's once suggested that if someone makes a joke, people will laugh, but they'll look around the room to see if it's socially acceptable to laugh. And then they go on to say as well, people will then look at the person that they deem to be the person in control or they put on the highest pedestal of that group because they're looking for their approval as to whether it's okay to laugh, which is crazy. So it's all those subtleties that people say. But it's difficult, isn't it? So you've got to know when to lean in and when to not lean in. But the difference between knowing your own feelings and accurately mapping out the dynamics between people is difficult. So why are we so afraid to name the unspoken in a group? You know, the unspoken tension. Is it politeness or is it a form of relational cowardice that prevents us from real connection?
Yeah, it could just be you don't want the confrontation. It's like, what's the purpose of the gathering? It's like you can go to a gathering knowing that you have a problem with one of the people there. It's like, is it appropriate for me to bring it up now? Is it something I can just sit in and just deal with internally? Or, yeah, I don't know if it's cowardice. I think when you're in that situation, it's awkward. It's difficult to deal with. I don't like using the word awkward because I feel like whenever somebody says a situation is awkward, it's only their interpretation of the situation, and quite often it's not. It's just because you were coming at that thing with an external or preconception of what that situation will be. Very, very difficult to navigate.
So it's trying to understand that in some certain gatherings or get together of people, there might be shadow dynamics or elephants in the room, and having relational intelligence means sometimes having the courage to address the issue. You know, like sometimes someone can say something is clear, visibly made people upset or a person upset. So sometimes having that intelligence means that you have to step in and go, hold on a minute, I think we should just take a back step. And it's supporting people to allow them to feel safe and secure. Sometimes it's not sticking your foot in your mouth and going, oh, shit's awkward in here. Sometimes it's just having the subtleties or knowing how to navigate certain politics within a group. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because everyone's unique, everyone's complex in their own wonderful, weird way. But it is with relational intelligence, it's knowing when to lead, follow, or step back. It's having that understanding of how group dynamics work, how this certain group dynamic works, and how you can best show up to support people in that environment.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most powerful move is actually not doing anything. It's restraint. Because sometimes you might ruffle the feathers too much and then suddenly everything's gone wrong.
Yeah. I think owning a situation can help. Like, sometimes you do just need to call something out to then allow that air to pass, and then you can just hang out and everything's fine. But yeah, I don't know. It's, as I say, it's a very difficult one to navigate. So situationally dependent as well. There's not, this is how you fix this. It's all to do with the specific situation. Like the example you came up with was like, oh, we're in a room and this person is that person's ex and that other person's been flirting with that person and this person actually likes person A. Like, hang on a second, I've just stepped into a room here. Oh, and then somebody else has just asked them how their relationship is because they weren't told that they broke up. That's going to put a certain air in the room compared to another one, which is somebody just got a promotion and the other person didn't. So many different scenarios. We couldn't fit them all in a 10-hour episode.
No, this is it. So it's understanding how to navigate each one, or rather being aware of the subtleties that are flying around and making your best judgment call on how to handle them. But what I think is really interesting is people with a high relational intelligence often build a lot of trust with a lot of different people because people feel safe with those that sense them and feel like they've been seen by that person. Trust isn't built through impressing or being the loudest person in the room. It's built through attunement. So how connected are you with that person? How much can you pick up on the subtleties of that person? Which again, I am curious of how people build their relational intelligence, because I would like to think I've always had a quite good one. But again, I think that comes from past traumas of me knowing that I need to keep myself safe in certain environments. So I've become very good at reading non-verbal cues or even verbal cues and inflections of voices, changes of tones, the way people carry themselves to keep myself safe. But I'm curious how other people could expand their relational intelligence.
Yeah. I think it's just more, the more you socialize with people and the more time you spend with people from different backgrounds, different groups, different hobbies, different interests, you're going to pick up different people's cues on different things. If you've only ever hung out with your family, you're going to know how to read your family, but you're not going to know how to read anyone else. Or you might make completely the wrong assumptions. Maybe everyone in your family has a tendency to smile too much when they're annoyed. And therefore, every time somebody smiles out in public, you might think, oh, they're going to get angry in a second. It's like, well, no, that's not right.
So it's exposure. Trying to get as much exposure under different circumstances as possible so you can understand how different personalities and personas play out under a different set of circumstances. But I suppose as well, there's practices you could do, like you've got to practice deep listening. Trying to understand rather than just waiting to speak. I think it's crazy how many people actually aren't listening. They're just waiting for their turn to talk next. I think it's just mental. I can't remember the study. I'm going to ruin it. But there was a study that suggested that the speed in which the brain is able to listen and process the words that were said were actually on average slower than the ability for someone to talk after someone stopped talking, which shows they actually haven't listened. They're just already blurting out what's come to mind.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see that study taken further on if you spend more time around an individual, does your speed increase with that person because you have more predictive ability on what they were thinking?
Yeah, that's interesting because you want to build patterns, you want to build habit recognition. So you might be like, well, I know what they're going to say. I'm just going to talk anyway.
But that's the other side of it is, do you then predict too much to where you can form your opinion while they're talking and then you just blurt it out straight away? Because, for example, with us doing this podcast, this is episode, 62?
62.
So we've spent at least 62 hours talking to each other, which is crazy. And we've come up with a joke, or one of us has said something, and we've both said the punchline at the same time. Like, or we know, it's happened on the podcast a few times, I think, where we both had the same train of thought. And that, to me, says that we are both actively listening, but we also know instinctively where it's going to go. So I think exposure to lots of different groups so you understand how lots of different people think is super important.
Yeah, exposure, interacting with people that have different thoughts, values and ideologies than yourself, I suppose. I'd go a step further, because then you're not just surrounding yourself that think and act the same as you. But yeah, you are right. The more you spend with people, the more you might predict what they're going to say, which I suppose is, another reason to suggest you should go out and try new things, because then it will help you have a better relational intelligence. But I suppose, do you think there's a role to be played for someone that has a high intelligence in this regard to move from passive observer to active harmonizer? Do you think that's the next step for people?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think so when you say active harmonizer, you mean having, almost the relationship being more harmonious.
Yeah, so being that person that's going to be brave and stick their foot in their mouth and call out when things are uncomfortable, where someone's overstepped a line, or within reason, help navigate the social dynamics amongst people to a more harmonious environment.
So the example that jumps into my head would be the younger sibling in the situation. Older brothers are having an argument, and maybe a parent's involved as well. The younger one comes in and makes a joke. Suddenly the whole tension's diffused because the younger one is like, you all look at them with caring eyes. So that's something you've all got in common straight away and can diffuse any tension. Like, it's playing that character, but also knowing where you sit within your friendship group. Who is the person in this situation that's going to be that character?
Yeah, it's true. I suppose you want to then aim to be the person that people want in every room. Because if you're that person that is able to help everyone feel welcome and accepted and part of the conversation, people are going to want you in there, because you're not just going to network, you're going to build an ecosystem of trust and clarity. We've all been that person that wants to get something out and they just can't. And then someone that's slightly more involved goes, hold on a minute, like, Will, I saw you wanted to add something. What are you thinking? And then you're like, oh my God, I'm in. Like, thank you. So you want to be that person that people want in that room. So suppose you've got to ask questions like, do I enter rooms trying to be seen or just trying to see? Do I see what's actually in front of me, or do I just see what I think I want to see? When conversations go flat, did I adjust or just perform harder?
Ooh.
Yeah. So I suppose the most influential people aren't the loudest. They're just the people that are most attuned. I wonder if people can point out someone in their life that is that person for them.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really difficult. I know in my social group, even in my own social group, I don't know. Like, I want everyone there, different situations, maybe different people, but everybody in our social group pretty much has really good social skills. Like you, for example, Iri, definitely. Like me to a point, although I feel like I'm just faking it. But we know how to handle ourselves in certain situations. And I think a lot of it comes from confidence. And then there's others in the group that maybe aren't as confident, but you still want them there. You still want their opinions on things. They're still very much a valid part of the group. There's understanding what everyone brings to the table, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to respect each other enough. And then when there's a healthy level of respect, likely navigating those sort of issues can be arguably easier. as well, because there is that healthy level of respect for people. Yeah, interesting. But I think what's important when it comes to social relational intelligence is just the ability to say no as well. So why saying no to an obligation is how you say yes to meaning. So you've got to find the art of the generous no almost. So every yes costs energy. And if energy is spent on obligation, it's unavailable for intimacy, creativity, depth, personal growth even. A generous no isn't a rejection, it's clarity. So I suppose we'd move the conversation on to how saying no to the good is how you make space for the great. So we think saying no is selfish, but saying yes out of obligation is actually a lie. Let's look at mastering a generous no, the art of protecting your energy so you can actually show up for the people that matter.
Yeah.
So, suppose a question for you and anyone that's listening is, how many times have you gone to an event you didn't want to attend, only to spend the whole time checking your watch and wishing you were home?
Yeah.
Did that yes actually serve?
It's very difficult. I feel like it's easy to get wrapped up in that with like Christmas meals with your work, Christmas dues.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody has a gathering after work one day. It's like it's somebody's birthday. Do you go to that? Well, you want to show your support and you want to feel like a part of the team, but you can know deep down for you don't have the energy for that, or you have certain other goals that you're trying to achieve in your personal life that would seriously get in the way of. It's like, how do you navigate it? It's very difficult.
It is, isn't it? Especially when there's societal pressures, expectations on some of the yeses, like you say, when it comes to work. There is an expectation that you turn up for the work events. And sometimes they just don't bring, or they just drain your energy, I think is a better way to put it. They drain your energy. And you don't want to be there, and you're not the best version of yourself when you're there, and you're just there checking your watch, like, okay, 10 more minutes, yeah, that's fine. 7 more minutes, okay, I can do this. You know, like, you're not authentically in that discussion, in that environment. You got to argue, maybe wonder, people would surely want you to show up to somewhere where you want to be there, because then you're going to want to spend time and invest with the people. But sometimes there's yeses you have to say, sometimes you have to say no. But I suppose we're trying to get to the point where the no feels comfortable and authentic. There's a such thing called the people pleaser hangover, and the resentment that builds when we let obligation drain our battery. Because we've probably all gone to an event in the evening knowing we've got plans in the morning, and because we've said yes, it's drained our energy for what we actually wanted to do the next day.
Yeah.
So is your inability to say no a sign of kindness, or is it a fear of being disliked?
Is your inability to say
no a sign of kindness, or is it a fear of being disliked? So if you're always saying yes, is that, even at the expense of yourself, is that a sign of kindness, or is it a fear of being disliked? Or is it something different?
I think for most people it's a fear of not being included, of missing out on something. Big thing, FOMO. But it's what you've got to do is learn to come to terms with that. It's like, if I'm going to start prioritizing myself, am I going to miss out on some things that would otherwise have been socially fun? Yes, you are. But what are you going to gain? You're going to gain autonomy. You're going to gain getting closer to your goals more quickly. And maybe even be able to have better social relationships, because when you do hang out with them, you're there because you really do want to be there. You're not there out of obligation.
Yeah, that's right. What it makes me think of is the quote, you can do anything, but just not everything.
Chris Williamson said that in the Diary of a CEO
Did he?
podcast recently.
Yeah, we're one of the same.
Did it in the context of New Year's resolutions. You can change anything you want this year, but not everything.
I mean, it's true, yeah. It makes me think of that. So You know, if you're saying yes to everything, you're probably giving a diluted version of yourself because you're not giving your authentic version of yourself. So every yes is a no to something else. So you do have to look at priorities to an extent. And it's mastering the artful no. And sometimes when you start prioritizing yourself, that no can feel extremely uncomfortable. But then over time, you get better at it. And people learn to respect you for the ability to say no. This is something I've definitely learned. Like, I don't drink. I've been in environments where people are like, do you want to drink? I'm like, nope, I'm good. And I know the level of respect or sort of confirmation I get of that now is so much better than when before I was like, oh no, I don't really drink, thank you though. And I was just kind of a bit awkward with, whereas now I'm like, nope, I don't drink. And I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. You know, it's super easy. If you're firm and you believe in your sense of identity, it makes that no so much easier. And people tend to respect it a lot more because then you're not half-hearted. You're not second-guessing. It's not a half-hearted yes or a half-hearted no. It's a clear setting of boundaries. And people like people that set boundaries because then you know where you exist within their world.
Yeah.
Do you think you say yes to things when you really want to say no?
All the time.
Oh, really?
That's why I've got no time.
Interesting.
I say yes. Trevor Noah was on a podcast and he was talking about this. But the person who says yes to, like, the importance of saying no, the person who says yes to everything, especially if you have bad time management skills, is like, somebody asked me, can you look after my kids? Can you babysit my kids while I go out to this thing? Yeah, of course. And then I look at the calendar later and realize that I have a gig that starts 15 minutes after they're supposed to be back. Like, and then you feel guilty about it because you've just said yes, they've made these plans and you've already said yes to the gig. It's like, okay, how do you navigate that? And the reality is that the anxiety and the feelings inside build up, and then last minute you let them down because you were trying to figure out a way to solve it and get yourself out of it. And you're always setting yourself up to fail.
And that always hurts so much more for the other person as well, as if you cancel last minute rather than just being upfront and go, no, sorry, I can't do that.
Yeah. And then you stack emotions. You go, oh, I feel bad about that. Oh, you idiot. You shouldn't have said yes in the first place. And then you feel anxiety about the fact that you've just done exactly the same thing in a different scenario elsewhere. And it's, yeah. So I do say yes to too much. One of my things for 2026 is to say no more, or don't. Yeah. Say no more. Don't commit to things that I don't fully believe in.
Say yes to the right things. So I suppose no's often feel selfish, but they're not really, because we confuse availability with love. But how can someone that's depleted show up deeply? How can you show up as your best version of yourself for that person if you yourself are drained and saying yes to everything under the sun? Don't get me wrong, there is a big part of me that loves the yes man theory, that loves the saying yes because it opens yourself up to new opportunities. I love that mindset, and I actually think it's something people should embrace for a short period in their life. Say yes to absolutely everything that comes your way and see how your life changes. But then you'll very quickly learn that you can't say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And then you start learning what you want to say yes to and what you want to say no to. And then you end up curating better relationships because you have a respect for yourself, you have a respect for them and their time. And because saying no in the wrong rooms will make you fully present in the right ones.
Yeah, super important. I applied the yes theory.
Did you?
Yeah, it's a bit different because I was actually excited about the thing as well.
Okay.
But it's something out of the ordinary for me to say yes to that I just went for anyway. And that is, you asked, Will, do you want to come to Bali? I said yes. I didn't at the time, especially. I was like, I need to work. I need to work. But I said yes. And now it's getting to the point where we're looking at booking, like Sophie booking the holiday off and us booking the flights. It's like, I've already in my head now worked out how I'm going to get around that work-wise. There's no pressure on it. I can just be excited for the trip itself. And that yes has taught me that you don't need to say no to opportunities if, like, just because of some arbitrary reason or you're expecting stress in advance. Like, that's just stupid. So yeah, trying to say yes to more is good. But also knowing if you're working towards a goal, saying no to things that aren't important or you don't think will enrich your life
Yeah.
is important.
100% agree. There's a mindset that I adopted one point in my life when I was feeling extremely indecisive. And I love this and I still implement it to this day. And I think it's awesome. I've said it before and I'll probably say it again. But if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah.
If the opportunity that's in front of you ignites your soul to the point where you're like, hell yeah, let's go. It's a yeah, that's a yes, obviously. But if it doesn't ignite you to that point, it's a no.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time on it. And don't get me wrong, it's a very similar mindset to the yes man theory, because it does sometimes mean that you miss out on things that you maybe would have actually enjoyed if you went. But it does also help you understand what you want to prioritize. So when someone says, do you want to go out for a drink tonight? And you're like, oh, maybe. It's like, no. Okay, so that clearly wasn't important. What was? Oh, someone's messaged me if I want to go for a workout that evening. Actually, yeah, that's important. So, okay, clearly going to the gym is arguably more important. Oh, someone actually asked me out for dinner. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's more important because it's more of a social interaction. So it helps you define what's important for you at that point. But your social life becomes a source of fuel rather than a source of fatigue when you start to say no. You develop a reputation for being fully present because people know that if you're there, you really want to be there. And that's so understated. How amazing would that feel if people knew that if you're coming, it's because you want to be there? That must feel pretty damn good, that people know that you're there because you legitimately want to, not because they said yes out of obligation. So how would you start to say no? You'd have to ask questions like which events, which yeses make me feel full and which make me feel hollow, which make me feel empty and drained. Do I say yes to avoid discomfort? Or do I say yes because it helps me feel more aligned with myself? I suppose it's who do I have energy for? Or who do I feel like I want to protect my energy for? A well-placed no is often the most generous yes to your future self. So it's not saying no to everything, but it's a well-placed no.
Yeah. There's an idea, again, in the Chris Williamson Diary of a CEO podcast, which is, what could you do today that your 85-year-old self would thank you for? And it's probably saying no to a lot of the stuff that you know is bad for your health but short-term enjoyable. It's like, just think about what your future self would think about it.
Yeah, that's a really nice lens to put on it, because then when you frame things like what would my future self thank me for, it allows you to make the most informed decisions you can at that point. Would my future self thank me for going for a 6 p.m. workout or going out drinking all night? Likely the workout. So it's difficult. I know sometimes people feel like FOMO is a huge part of their life and they have to say yes to everything and they don't want to miss out on what life has to offer. But in reality, you can't experience everything. Like we've said, you can do anything you want. You just can't do everything you want, which should be inspiration as opposed to sort of demotivation. But yeah, we've spoken about like the hill gradient effect. So it reminds us that we're not facing life alone. But when we face life together, we need to ensure that we've got relational intelligence. So how to show up well for each other. But then also how you show up very much depends on what you're saying yes and no to. So a generous no will protect the energy required for your real connection. And altogether, they film or create a human-centered style of living. So that in a world that values speed and availability, a human-centered way of living is going to make you feel more fulfilled and your friendships and your relationships feel more fulfilled. I suppose the goal isn't to carry more, but to carry less together with intention.
Yeah, and only carry the things that are important.
Which is difficult, but ultimately, that's what life is here for, and it's for living through connections with people. creating a life full of support, respecting you enough to say no, and growing with people. But man, anything jumped out at you? Any closing remarks that you have for us here on Beneath the Noise on this episode?
We covered so much.
We covered so much.
Is all like this is a really good template of how to navigate your social life, but it was also full of twists and turns and almost contradictions in a way, because we were saying sort of across the start of this one and the last podcast about how you should really prioritize social relationships, and we finished off this one by saying, well, don't be afraid to say no to social things if it doesn't fill your cup. So it's like there's, as all things in life, there's definitely a duality at play, and it's life is just the game of navigating that. So that's my takeaway.
I like it. It's a cool way to wrap it up. It's an in-depth topic. I think it'll take a few more episodes for us to understand completely what social relationships look like, but we'll get there. I've written down my word. What's your word?
Cantaloupe.
You've used that before.
I know. What did you write?
Motivation.
Oh, okay.
I used a big word today.
You did.